follow if they are dissatisfied with a non-renewal, and engaging in a public debate at a board meeting is not part of that process.
Please, 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 you will get your chance to speak in the public comment section. Please act in a civil manner. You are disrupting our business meeting at this point. We will be getting to a public comment section. Please, please act in a civil manner.
This process is currently underway. It will run its course, and we'll move from there. But I have nothing further to say on this matter. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Rinelli. We'll now move to item 9, Personnel and Labor Relations. Madam Vice President Chantel Cherry, please.
Ralph is here.
Oh, Ralph's here. Oh. Ralph.
Be it resolved that the following motions identified as A through L be approved as presented.
Second.
Mr. Board Secretary, please read the roll.
Mrs. Corodino?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Present, not voting.
Mrs. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Rashid?
Yes.
Ms. Scotto?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cherry?
Yes.
Dr. Connors?
Yes.
The motion's carried.
Item 10, committee reports. I see that the Culture and Climate Committee met, the Policy and Legislative Committee met, and the Curriculum Committee met. We'll start with the Culture and Climate. Chairperson, Ms. Lane.
Thank you, Dr. Connors. The Culture, Climate, and Community Relations Committee met on Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, to review goals and projects for 21 and 22 years, including positive messaging, community partnerships, and wellness. Under the Positive Messaging Initiative, the committee reviewed marquee messaging across district for April, as well as the month of hope, helping others practice empowerment, and noted that June messaging will be for Piscataway Pride. The committee then reviewed final brochures created to market the district to potential employees, as well as to new and potential homeowners. Committee members made marketing suggestions for launching the pieces. Under community partnerships, the committee reviewed the ongoing relationships with Rutgers University and received an update from Ms. Pongratz as to work completed throughout the year and to anticipated partnerships to begin in 2022-2023. Ms. Palermo reviewed upcoming work at Shore School with Jersey Cares. And under the Wellness Initiative, the committee reviewed student videos for Wellness Wednesdays, now incorporated onto the district website, and supported this effort to continue in 2022-2023. And the committee also reviewed a flyer and publicity plans for an upcoming parent workshop developed by the Haven. And that concludes the Culture, Climate, and Community Relations report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. Any questions, comments? We'll move on to the Policy Committee. Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon. The Policy and Legislative Committee met on Wednesday, June 1st, to review policies about HIB, facilities maintenance, procurement, and more. The first reading, the committee discussed and approved the following policies for placement on the Board of Education agenda for first reading. All of these policies were updates to existing policies to align with current legal requirements and terminology. Policies 3161 and examination for cause, policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, policy 7410, facilities maintenance, repair, scheduling, and accounting, and a related regulation 8220 about emergency and crisis situations. Policy 8561, procurement procedures for school nutrition programs, and policy 9320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies and related regulations. The other item on that agenda was the first reading of the pending revisions. The committee pre-approved the following additional policies for first reading subject to completions and revisions to be determined by the administration. They were the Title I district-wide screen parent and family engagement, Title I school parent and family engagement, student intervention and referral services. The committee discussed the possible need for additional language, and the final policy was postnatal accommodations for student. The committee requested additional input from the administration. And that's the complete total of my report.
Thank you, Madam Chair of the Policy Committee. The other committee that met this past month was the Curriculum Committee. Madam Vice President Chantel Cherry.
The Curriculum Committee met on Monday, June the 6th, 2022, to review counseling programs, ELL, health and PE, updates, collaborations, tutoring, and summer programs, and more. PHS High School Counseling Department and Sedmison reviewed the May 1 PHS What's Next celebration, held in collaboration with the Freshman Seminar Program to celebrate next steps for all students and to further their knowledge of job and educational opportunities beyond high school. This includes trade opportunities introduced to students at the construction industry event held at the NJ Expo Center. The Guidance Department will also start a parent advisory committee to discuss FAFSA and other financial aid opportunities. Desmond Duham, author. Mr. Duham presented Run Against the Odds, a book about seeing the bigger picture, coaching, and finding purpose. Hidden Gems Literacy Emporium, Above Art Studios. Kayla Bolwell introduced the committee to Hidden Gems Literacy Emporium, a nonprofit community-owned bookstore located in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and their book events that include motivational speaker Brad Butler II, Will Charles, and Dante Pierce discuss the importance of art and art education and how it is essential to social and emotional learning. STEM collaboration. Mr. Patel introduced innovations that originated in New Jersey. The committee discussed how to build the computer science and robotics area, including extracurriculum opportunities at the middle schools and community partnerships. ELL. Ms. Ganesha Gerard Morin provided an overview of the ELL Institute, including leveled classes, ELL classes, and ELL push-in support for core contents classes. ELL Institute also offers parents classes and hold parent nights 2 or 3 times a year to provide information about programs and scholarship opportunities. The Metler Bodine House Museum. Ms. Dunlap provided an update to the Metler Bodine House partnership. Ms. Dunlap and Mr. Aravano are planning a short documentary to promote the museum and will offer students internships to help create the film. Mr. Aravano also updated the committee as to improvements in the PHS TV/radio program. Curriculum updates. Mr. Aravano provided an update on curriculum rewrites for the digital literacy/media tech for grades K through 8 that aligns to the 2020 standards. All 5 TV radio courses will have their 5-year curriculum revision this summer, aligning to the tech CTE standards. K-3 social studies will be updated to the 2020 standards and continue to highlight API/Amistad and Holocaust lessons. Grades 6 through 8, they will be aligned to the 2022 standards, includes grade 6 civics. Health and PE updates. Dr. Baskerville presented the required comprehensive health and PE standards and outlined the core ideas regarding social and sexual health that should be understood by the end of grades 2, 5, and 8, along with how the district plans to implement these lessons next school year. Parents will receive the exact language that will be used and the dates and times the lessons will be taught. Parents will also have the right to opt out their students from these lessons. The curriculum updates will be submitted to the board for approval. District Learning Acceleration Plan, tutorial programs. Dr. Baskerville explained the completion of the District Learning Acceleration Plan, which includes local and state testing data, and explained how the plan will be used for the upcoming year. Data will travel with students from school year to school year via Linkit, so teachers can see students' progress. Proportions of the plans are already in use in tutorial programs as well as classrooms instructions. Summer programs. Dr. Baskerville presented a flyer to promote the summer programs, Jump Ahead, AP Institute, and Credit Recovery. He reminded the committee that the AP Institutes are not created to give students an advantage, but to rather preview the course for the upcoming year. And that's my report for the curriculum committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anyone have any comments or questions? I just want to add one comment that we're very fortunate to live in a very rich Revolutionary War period area. The Mettler Bodine House is actually right over at the foot of the bridge that goes over to New Brunswick Rutgers campus. And I would recommend to anybody to visit over there. Piscataway, at that particular area, George Washington, Lafayette, and Alexander Hamilton celebrated the second anniversary of our country there. So we have an opportunity to have our school children go over and see a lot of the relics, a lot of et cetera. And I thought it was interesting when you read about it because if you imagine on the other side of the Raritan River, the Rutgers College side, there was a force majeure, like a French volley, that was meant and aimed at the British forces retreating to Bayonne and that area to tell the British that you're not well, that keep going back to England, and it was our second anniversary of our country, and it's and we're trying to get school children to learn more about it. So, thank you.
Hey, Dr. Connors, Ms. Chair, I did have a question. I was concerned about the tutorial programs and the summer programs. First of all, the fact that we even offer them is amazing because many districts don't even have them at all. So that right there is commendable. I'm very interested because Lincoln is going around, everyone's sort of doing them around. Nancy, I'm quite sure your school's done them as well. How the teacher's going to translate the information for next year so that students can excel, or how will it be used to place the student? Will it be used to play? Because we keep often talking about COVID organize or recognize that there's an achievement gap, and it made it wider. So now we're getting information data. How is that data really going to translate for next year to help students? If you, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. So we use our Jump Ahead programs in a couple of ways, right? For academic achievement and academic enrichment. Academic enrichment is for students who are not on grade level. So we're not using that particular information for placement, Mr. Johnson. We're using it to really catch them up if they had any learning loss during COVID or even before COVID, because we used to do that before COVID as well, right? It's not something new that we just did because of the pandemic that we just came out of. Academic enrichment is more of an advanced advanced is probably the wrong word. It's more for students who are on their grade level, looking to get extra academic help or academic exposure to things over the summer that they did not, or they want to catch up on even further. So yeah, we really don't use it for placement. We use it really to enrich and enhance the academic experience and to try to level where the kids are if they had any loss.
Right, and please excuse me for being devil's advocate, because I wanted people to understand that that's what it's for. But I was really more concerned like how Lincoln is going to be used.
Yeah, so we take that data and we make sure that the teacher in the next grade has it. And also we try to make sure that the teachers in the previous grade look at that information to see where, again, we talk about when the importance of understanding what the previous grade does and what the next grade does. Right, so we make sure that the data that comes out of that, whether the teacher was involved in the summer program or not, is distributed to the teachers that students have.
Okay. All right, and so that teacher will then be able to say, okay, differential learning for this group. So, they'll be able to, it'll be a helpful tool
Absolutely.
to have them have it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, it was actually discussed at our curriculum meeting, and great insight, and myself asked the same question. And we have to be very fortunate to have Nancy Cordino, who has been teaching professionally and was able to teach me a few things about. I asked that similar question because the sensitive areas are, we have K through 3, elementary, 4, 5, intermediate, middle school, 6, 7, and 8, and then high school, 9, 10, 11, 12. And how does that data travel from 3rd to 4th, from 5 to 6, et cetera? And I was not aware of the many systems that we have that Ms. Cordino pointed out to me and others. And it was a response to intervention, but it's more of an accelerated response at using the data. Is
Right.
that correct, Ms. Cordino?
think you were pretty good, Dr. Connors. I know that educators look at data. We look to see where deficits lie, specifically on strands and specific skills, so you know what to target. You can break that into your students into smaller groups and figure out like what you can push and what needs to be improved, and then also, what we can enrich as well. So most teachers do use and districts use the data to drive their daily instruction.
Well, the reason I asked that, and Tom, I've been a professional educator for well over 15 years. The reason I asked that question is because we also know Start Strong was not reliable data. Hell, let's be real, it was a one-day test that students may or may not have been active and engaged in. The reason I also asked that question, because we also know that we take the third grade reading scores, and that's how we build prisons. All right? And sometimes we have a school, the pipeline, prison pipeline. So when I ask you about data, I always am very curious how it's being interpreted, how it's being utilized, and how we implement it with our students. All right? Because some of these tests are very subjective, while others are very objective. So that's the reason I asked that question. It wasn't an I gotcha question. It was just, how is it being utilized? Because a lot of people don't have understanding of it.
I think we're looking at two different datas, if I'm understanding it. So if you're looking at like standardized tests, that's one type of data that they're probably using, but also more diagnostic. If you're looking at the jump ahead, they're looking at specific skills, and then using that to then drive their instruction.
Correct. That's the only
Yeah,
reason I
yeah.
asked about how is Linkit being used.
Yeah, I can honestly, we don't use that, so that I'm not familiar with. We use a different way to track our data.
Exactly. That's the reason why I asked.
Sure. So, but similarly to many of the electronic systems, one of the advantages, they level the students when they start using it, right? They put them at the level that they are, and they can progress from there, rather than having a teacher teach a lesson to 20 people and have to differentiate 20 different ways or things like that. And what the advantage that we have, and thanks to your support, all of your support, for the layers of administrators and educators that we have. I mean, Bill Baskerville's team looks at this data, right? It's not data that just goes into one person's hopper and to use. So we look at it as to form our curriculum. We look at it as to form the things that we teach, and we feel the same way about the Start Strong and that information as well.
No, thank you, because Dr. Baskerville has done an outstanding job. Dr. Gray back there also is one of the components of what we recognized in the 4th and 5th grade, that we had student learners who were 1 or 2 points away, and we had to create an Excel program where they gave up part of their cores just to say, hey, you can do this. We're going to give you a little motivation where we can do this, and especially in a district that's pushing AP and pushing, looking into, curriculums and bringing in the academies. So information is powerful. And I wanted to make sure that people understood that, and students know, hey, I have an opportunity for this. I'm just not going to take the summer off. But again, thanks, kudos, Dr. Baskerville, Mr. Gray, Colleen, everyone, Dr. Manelli for the educational support, so thank you.
There's no other further discussion about our committees. We'll move to item 11, approval of minutes. Mr. Laughlin.
Be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as submitted. Business meeting, May 12, 2022. Executive session, May 12, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes. Item 12 is public comments from the floor. The Board of Education I would just ask, please be civil, please keep your composure. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and school matters of community interest. In the support of this position, the law establishes a period of public comment at every board meeting. Individuals wishing to speak must state their name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes duration, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. The board may require that individuals register to speak prior to the beginning of the meeting. Participants may submit written material in support of their position. All statements and/or questions shall be directed to the presiding officer, and no participant may address or question board members individually. All speakers are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy rights of others whose legal rights may be affected. Please note, while it is not the board's intention to stifle comment on matters of legitimate concern to the school community, the public should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law governing defamation or invasion of privacy, they may face personal liability to the injured party. If speakers are uncertain of the legal ramifications of their comments, the board urges them to seek guidance beforehand from their own legal advisor. Is there anyone who would like to address the board?
Ms. Salgado-Cohen, before you begin, I would just ask, when you speak, please, you might have to get a little closer to the microphone so that the board and everyone can hear your comments. That's number one. Number two, as Dr. Connors mentioned, please state your name and address. I have to note it for the record. I apologize in advance if I ask you to repeat it and/or spell it. I'm just noting it for the record, so thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Salgado-Cohen.
My name is Nancy Salgado Cowan, and I'm very loud. I'm sure I don't have to eat the microphone. I am at 124 Stanton Avenue, Piscataway, New Jersey.
Thank you.
You got it?
Yes.
Simple question to the board, not sure if you're able to answer. Since this is not the Donaldson hearing for the said individual that we are all here for, which is Dr. Mausel, when is the Donaldson hearing?
I would just remind that this is a public comment section. It is not a question and answer period.
Thank you for the non-answer.
My name is Kyle Nutter, and I live at 511 Silverton Place, Piscataway, New Jersey.
I got the address. I'm sorry. Could you just repeat your name?
Kylan Nutter.
Thank you.
For the past 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, we have been dealing with an issue with, of course, Dr. Mausel. This issue is really heartbreaking to me because Dr. Mausel has taught students and teachers a lot of new things. And if you want your school to be better and to have more spirit, Dr. Mausel should still be working there. And I know a lot of people who support and respect Dr. Mausel because she has taught us and let us express ourselves. And I just want to give thanks to the people right there, everybody else who came, my parents, and especially Dr. Mausel.
All right. I would like to say one thing, and that is that, thank you for your comments and your input. And please respect the fact that board members cannot discuss personal matters in public. let me assure you that being inclusive and supportive of all of our students is a top priority. And so please respect that, and
Good evening. My name is Denise Rodriguez. I live at 227 Rutgers Road in Piscataway, and I am here for a different reason. I'm here to question if there will be any plans on any changes regarding the security of the schools. I understand there was an email with what's currently in place, but are there any plans for any new security?
again, thank you for your comment. We will be discussing that under new business, and, you know, it's just so tragic. I mean, in light of the recent shooting tragedy of Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, I'm going to be recommending that the board revisit our overall school safety by forming an ad hoc committee whose mission is to answer your question, to review, discuss, and recommend cutting-edge processes and procedures in our schools that could ultimately save lives. The background is that this board, in March of 2018, after the tragedy of Parkland, Florida, I'm from Connecticut, Newton, Connecticut. My alma mater had a teacher that passed away there, and Columbine High School in Colorado. This board unanimously passed a resolution in support of gun control and mental health services to protect our youth. And we work very closely with our state organization, the New Jersey School Boards Association, who constantly does studies on what makes schools safe. Monday, there's actually a forum on security measures, and it's a big panel, and I'm going to recommend later in new business that board members go to that. But this is based on, to your point, Denise, what we have been doing is that in my time on the board, we have looked at every one of those incidents, and you get money from the taxpayers and you get money from state aid. We took advantage of School Development Authority money to actually put in the camera systems, to put in the double vestibules, to put in all of those things that were mentioned in the letter that went home. And so to answer your question is that we're seriously looking at where we are in the safety measures, and
I understand,
And
excuse me,
so-
I'm sorry, but I am here for a different reason. No offense, I'm sure, but can you guys at least respect the time that he's addressing the issue?
so Denise, we will be getting back to you, and I've seen your communications, and thank you.
Excuse me, just to add to the issue at hand, what I'm speaking about, I just want to add some known information that I'm sure you guys are aware of, but things like having perhaps armed officers in the school, or metal, or excuse me, or
Please
Like I
give
said,
the person at the microphone the courtesy to talk. Please stop talking over people.
Mr. President, could you call for a point of order, please? Mr. President, please call for a point of order. Mr. President, point of order, please.
Denise, please continue, Denise. please realize.
Can I at least finish, and then
Yeah,
you
please,
guys can say everything that you need to say? This has nothing to do, it has nothing to do with. I understand.
Regarding personnel.
I understand, but I'm just here for my 3 little ones, security, and afterwards you guys can say whatever you want to say.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen,
Mr.
ladies and gentlemen, if I may.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me,
lady,
the public has the right to make comments. Please let the public make its comments. Please.
Excuse me, Mr. President. If I may, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, just give me a moment.
Mr. Johnson is recognized.
If I may. First and foremost, yes, there were some conflicting answers and responses. So let's start with this. Let's start some civility. First to the young lady that has the floor. Young lady that has the floor, ma'am, that has the floor. First and foremost, this is not the first time that the board has to deal with this. So one of the active things I can tell you to do is to please join some of the policy committees, because you could actually have a voice and things in the committee, and I stress that for everyone, inside of a committee, it then goes and gets researched and everything and then provided to the board. The committee does not have any power or authority, so I don't want to give anybody that impression. But in that committee, all of the things that you want to discuss, whether armed or not armed and all those things, can be discussed and then brought here with some civility and also some point of facts and best practices. Because yes, no board member here can give you an answer. And I'm going to stress to Dr. Ranelli, we have also a board attorney. It's going to seem odd that you don't get it because legally we can't, especially when it comes to social media and all that. And I've seen things that are horrific, but we cannot respond. So I am going to ask that possibly maybe our board attorney can give you a little something that you can sort of walk away, because we can't discuss certain things. And it is hard because we're human beings. We got to sit here and listen like, oh my God. And a lot of this seems really premature because we can't discuss it. And if the board attorney, if you can kind of give the people something without giving any tactics, or, because again, you know the law better than I do in terms of that, in terms of this discussion, the people need to be able to walk away with something tangible that they can hold the house. Because right now, there's nothing, and it seems like it's, as the student said earlier, the miscommunication, and there's all this coming about, and it is really, I want to say premature, because there's nothing we could do at this point. And if you can, Mr. Rubin, again, I don't want to put you on blast, but is there something? Ma'am, we don't discuss that. As the board attorney, we can't discuss those things. If the board attorney, could you give them something to walk away with? Because if not, all we're doing is repeating it, and there's no resolution. It's just people standing there on the soapbox not knowing if it's being answered, if it's being dealt with, if it's not, or Dr. Millay, somebody.
Which issue are we talking about at this point, Mr. Johnson?
I think I not answered, but just gave the young lady with the gun question a viable mean, because we couldn't answer it. Now to the crowd.